I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. We are back, folks. We are so back. Andrew Kuo, how back are you?
Ooh, I'm fall back, Ben. I am a new man. The seasons change. I change for the better, always. How you feeling, man? You seem worldlier than the last time I talked to you.
Yeah, I'm definitely wiser. I'm more Mr. International, Mr. Worldwide, more, Sinclair Global. Like, I just feel like I'm a little more expansive, more like an orb, if you will.
Well, on a scale from 1 to orb, tell us what changed, man.
Like 360 degrees. Like, my radiuses are crazy. My radii. My arcs are like off the chain. I was just on a whirlwind tour. No, I went to Paris and then I went to Barcelona, or Barcelona, as the natives will say it in their Catalonian tongue.
I would say you've been gone from New York City all fall.
Fall back.
How was Barcelona, man?
I felt a little like the dream team, but just me. And I was mostly
all the dreams, all the teams.
And I was mostly redeeming myself in the process. Barcelona is cool. I had not been there in, I want to say, 6 years, 7 years, which I know sounds annoying. I hadn't been there in like half a decade. But I hadn't been there.
It does sound annoying, but like...
Yeah, I'm conceding that. I gotta say, the eating is good over there. And right now with the dollar throwing its muscle around, just
sure is.
Bullying its way around against the euro. Like they're there with their little funny money. It's worth the same as ours.
Yeah.
Look at this monopoly tripe.
How many tiny deep fried sardines does $5 buy?
Probably like 4 to 5. Like you can, like €1 per sardine, per anchovy might be the case. I ate a lot of tinned fish.
That's a whole thing over there, as people who watch food television know. Like, that's a whole culture.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive, the amount of tinned fish that I was able to gorge upon. But the food there is great. I don't know if Barcelona is necessarily a cultural epicenter in other ways, in comparison to, say, Paris. But food-wise, pretty damn good. I recommend it, especially at a time, as I said, when you can get more bang for the buck, as they say.
I brought some tinned fish over from my last trip to Europe, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. I'm not as worldly, but I brought some tinned fish back and some beautiful cans. I gave a few away, and I've been hoarding a few beautiful ones in my cupboard. And I was like, yo, it's been a lot of years. It's time to eat those tinned fish. And I looked at the expiration date and I missed them. I was like, Cloverfield. I think it was Cloverfield, John Goodman in the basement. All these like survival movies where people have these shelters and they have dried bucatini. It almost looks like Khloe Kardashian's, food closet. I forgot what you call those. Pantry. Yes, yeah. Pantry. And yeah, I was like, it's time to eat these things. And if I was in a survival, if the revolution happens and I'm in a survival bunker, these things only last like 4 years. Like how I'm doing my push-ups, I'm on my Peloton, I'm in shape. Oh, no food because it's all gone bad.
Wow. How quickly people forget the lessons of Steve 1989.
Just eat it.
4 years? The expiration date? Man, you want a nice hiss.
Although
you get a nice hiss, smell it, good to go. We're talking 50 years, 80 years, 100 years. You can eat this stuff indefinitely. Like tinned bread from the Civil War, by all means, devour it, my friend.
botulism, boys. But
I mean, there's some certain things you want to steer clear of. You don't want the rancid nuts. Pause.
no, we'll get to Draymond Green in a second. But Steve, 1989, I got to admit, was like firing on all cylinders maybe like 7 years ago. He slowed down, and I'm like, maybe it's all the rancid food you're eating, man.
I think that January 6th took a lot out of him.
He's dusting off his vintage Civil War uniform.
I mean, he was holed up in Nancy Pelosi's office. Been there for, damn near 10 months now.
He had those flat caps. What do you call those? You know what I'm talking about? They look like Civil War hats.
Yeah, that's the thing. The classic Civil War hat. Yeah.
It's called history. He's just reenacting history. Our
Are you
great
thinking
country was based on.
Are you thinking of like the Revolutionary War, like the tri-brimmed hats?
No, those are different. I'm thinking of the straight up Civil War hats. Tri-brimmed. Damn. No,
Like
not those.
Like three? Isn't that what they're called? Like tri. There's something like tri-hats, tri-hard hats. The tri-guy hats.
Do not get. Have you been following this Try Guy stuff? This Ime Udoka
I'm gonna
story.
be totally honest with you. Being overseas, living in Europe, like a European,
Eating all the
I
small
haven't-
fishes.
I haven't really been keeping up with your, colloquial American culture.
Oh,
I've been
wow.
more eating tinned fish, just FYI.
The best.
What's the story with the Try Guy? They're wearing three-cornered hats.
Their icon is Ime Udoka. They followed in his footsteps. Very influential workplace behavior. I think the interest with the Try Guys is a lot of people can't believe that they exist. It's not what happened. It's just like, what is Try Guys? And I'm like, oh shit, this is some YouTube-age. Like I dabble in YouTube. I'm a YouTube tourist, but even I know the Try Guys do numbers. And they're dudes they're theater guys who like try the entire Hardee's menu, or like try to make pizza from scratch. Like it's just bait, but they make millions of dollars and it's successful. And whatever, one of them was a boomer and tried to find love in the workplace, and it didn't work out for them because he's known as the wife guy as well. And I know you have feelings about wife guys.
I don't think I have feelings about wife guys.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, I just resent them.
Right. Well, per our classic, perfect Chris Rock episode, we discussed the phenomenon known as wife guys.
Oh, yeah. And then you slapped the hell out of me for weeks on end. For my disrespect of you and your betrothed.
Quo grew 5 inches in the pandemic and slapped the shit out of me.
Yeah, it was really annoying. He broke his legs, grew 4 inches, and before I knew it, he was at my eye level, just smacking the hell out of me for disrespecting his wife.
Yeah.
True Try
Anyway,
Guy behavior.
the best canned seafood is a mussel, right?
I've never had canned mussels.
You never had smoked,
don't think.
or maybe smoked oysters. Maybe is what I'm thinking.
I feel like maybe I'm just not as worldly as I thought I was. I'm kind of being exposed. I've eaten anchovies and sardines and tuna. I guess albacore, if we're going to really expand the tuna definition.
No abalone, no like squid.
I've never had
mollusks.
Canned squid.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that is as popular. I know the bivalves do really well in cans. Like they almost get better in the can.
You may be ready for Europe. I'm just going to
Oh,
say.
I'm ready. I'll
Your
get out
knowledge
there.
of
I'll get out there.
tinned seafood is really next level. I mean, you're saying bivalves are better tinned. You're
I
going
think
in.
Well, they're just totally different. They're not the same thing. And sometimes a can will run you like at a nice supermarket like $40, and it's behind like weird glass. I have only tried a few of them, but like, you know, usually when you get like a vongole, kind of the world's best pasta, maybe up for debate. 50 best pastas, go. You know, like the canned clams are pretty tasty.
How are you on caviar? You a caviar lad?
I love it. I just don't get it because it's like actually expensive. I love it though. I love bad caviar too. Why? What? You are you mad at caviar and wife
No.
guys?
No, I'm not mad at caviar.
I mean
Enraged at white wife guys.
the way Chang does it, where he just like puts caviar on like anything, is not something I care about much. I know it creates a lot of energy on food Twitter, but like I really like it on like what, a beignet? Is that how you eat them, on those little like pancakes? Oh my god, the best.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if that's the word for them though, right? The little tiny pancakes.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to Google it. But the best caviar thing I've ever had, rest in peace, Mission Chinese, was their bread course, which was like pizza bread coming piping hot to the table with butter and caviar. And it was just phenomenal, man. It was like one of the great bites. I really love that dish. But
You're
can't get it
thinking
anymore.
you're thinking of blini. Correct?
I am thinking of blinis. Sounds like a candy.
Sounds like a sharp-shooting 3-point specialist who would show up for the Sixers.
Bucco
during
blini.
Ben Simmons' run.
The space.
Rookie year. The space, the platonic ideal of basketball. There was blinis everywhere, and he was just dishing caviar on them.
Well, I would love to hear more about Barcelona, but are there any nuggets our listeners need to know? How's the hoop scene over there, man?
I did not see a lot of basketball being played. I know it does get played there, but I did not see a whole lot of evidence of it publicly. One thing that was going on in Barcelona, which was not unique to the city, but unique to specifically when I was there, totally coincidental, was that they had the world's 50 best bars, which is a website, and I believe they do the same with restaurants, but this is the bars version. I don't know who the judges are. I don't know what kind of corruption is endemic within the hierarchy of the world's 50 best bars.
Politics.
But anyway,
like,
they were there.
Right, like
They were there.
Puffy is fighting Mace. Lil Kim is number 20. Jadakiss
Someone went
didn't crack the
upside
10.
Steve Stout's head with a bottle of bub.
Right.
But so you would go to a bar there, and this happened twice before I realized what was happening. And there'd be like 8 bartenders, and there'd be like specialty cocktails, and they would just make them and give them to you. And I tried to pay the first time, like, no, go for it. And I thought, wow, these gentlemen, these hombres are so nice here in Barcelona. I later found out that there were different events being held celebrating some of these 50 best bars. So, for example, at one place I went to, there was a bartender who was from the Four Seasons in Tokyo, and he was making his signature peach Negroni, which was very tasty.
Yeah, I'd eat that.
And another place I went to, they were bartenders from Mexico City, from a place, I think it's called, like, how do I pronounce it? It's like
Juancho Hanan Gomez.
Licoreria Limentur, which I've been to a couple times. It's like
That sounds like a
cocktail bar in
lovely
Mexico City.
place, and I don't even know anything about it. What
It
a
is.
What a
It
bunch
is
of
nice.
sounds. Yeah.
It's nice. And then another place, Hanky Panky, which is kind of
Not so
well, it's a bodega, and then you go through the back exit, then it's a speakeasy, and when you leave, you climb out of a vending machine.
And then ex-Knicks legend Rudy Fernandez is there to greet you.
So there were bartenders from there at the Edition Hotel. So that was all going on. I actually knew a few people from New York that I just missed because they were there in terms of bar industry stuff. So their list put Barcelona a couple places in Barcelona at the very top. Some place called Paradiso, which my friends in Barcelona said is not a great bar. They're doing flair bartending. It's weird cups and glasses, and it's not very cool. And I believe them. And I looked at the list myself, and there were 6 places from New York out of that top 50. Double Chicken Please.
Well,
Katana
we got to
Kitchen.
clarify.
Go ahead.
There's a top 50 U.S. and top 50 world. So we're dealing kind of...
These are all in world. These are all world.
So Attaboy got world?
Yeah, this is the world's top 50 includes 6 places from New York.
Okay.
I did not write down the exact numbers, but these are in order within that 50. Double Chicken Please, Katana Kitchen, Attaboy, Overstory, Dante, Employees Only. Most of them I have never been to, and most of them I've actually never heard of.
2 are right in the Lower East Side. Attaboy's on Eldridge, and Double Chicken Please is kind of a newer Korean place. They serve chicken sandwiches and like kind of a cool menu, but have like a for real cocktail menu in the back. That's on Allen Street, Allen and Delancey, near the Subway, the old Subway restaurant. And they have cocktails on tap. So they pre-mix the cocktails and, you know, make sure they're fresh and tasty. And then they pour like a draft beer.
Would you say, in your opinion, that Double Chicken Please is the 6th, number 6, all time? No, worldwide.
I am not sure it's number 6 in that neighborhood. But fair enough. Yo, if this is, I mean, this website's funny, right? It's like the exact address is worlds50bestbars.com. Like, they're doing a thing. And I think it doesn't benefit them for saying, like, I don't know, clandestino or whatever, you know? Like, I don't want to have too much of a bias here because I know what they're doing. They are saying if you're a tourist and you're visiting Barcelona and you want to run into ex-NBA legend Alex Abrines, like, what bar might he be at? It's like one of the places you mentioned. Like, I don't think a tourist wants to go to a place that doesn't have a nice cup or like a square glass. This place, Double Chicken Please, like shaves their cubes of ice so all the corners aren't sharp because they melt too fast. Like, they're really into cocktails. And I think, you know, I remember 2005, like that was a thing. And I think this list kind of maybe appeals to people who have the money now to go to these places. This is targeting like 40 and 50-year-olds, right?
Well, yeah, I think you are right. This strikes me as not only a list that is for tourists and for the spirits industry itself and the hospitality industry, where it's like, oh, here's a list. Now your hotel can recommend these places, or you can partner with this brand, or we're going to do an event and get bartenders from this place. It just feels like connective tissue throughout various parts of the hospitality and spirits industry, like food, dining, cocktails, because it seems to be mostly based on ambiance to some degree, but it's just based on making cocktails, which, as you mentioned, is so foreign to the way that I even think about going out and haven't thought about it in maybe 15 years. Yeah. Like, there may have been like a brief window when I thought, oh, this place has like cool cocktails. We should check that out. And that lasted a hair of time. And then I went back to being on my bullshit.
I like a vibey place. I like a place that I might run into somebody I know, or someone in the room might be a Catholic, a communist, an anarchist, all debating contemporary art. But, like, no, I like a vibe. I don't want to go to a cocktail place and be, like, neck to neck or elbow to elbow with a tourist from Murray Hill, Turtle Bay. Like, what are you doing in this neighborhood?
Oh, you guys are visiting from Mito. Well, if you listen carefully, you'll hear a Methodist talking about cancel culture.
That's right. I mean, yo, Attaboy used to be Milk and Honey, and that was kind of like one of the first, we've talked about this, one of the first speakeasies, fake speakeasies, until the New York Times ran a story about it, and then they got their liquor license, and they were a fake speakeasy. But that place was, like, in the 90s. It was cool, right? Not to date myself, but, like, I remember them passing out strawberries, and I was wowed by their cloth, like, bathroom towels. You put it in a hamper. This is before I could afford to gallivant with you in hotels.
Sorry. I'm just thinking of you, the source of your confusion about eating over the sink, all dated back to, are these napkins or hand towels? I don't know what's happening.
I was like, what the hell? That they have to do laundry after this? I was shocked. And, it was not my favorite vibe, but it was cool. Now when you go there, they have an outdoor space. It's next to sewage. It's next to a huge apartment that has garbage rotting next to where people get their teenies. And how is this one of the top 50 best bars? If you have to have a disclaimer being but you cannot have a drink outside because there's rotting sewage next to you, or sewage with rotting garbage, that cannot qualify as the top 50. I'm sorry, man.
I mean, that alone would drop me from 22nd best bar on the planet, on planet Earth, to at least maybe 25th. Mm-hmm. That would probably put Satan's Whiskers in London, Tropic City in Bangkok, and Kumiko in Chicago above it. Just the stench of rotting animal flesh that wafts through. That might even get you behind Argo in Hong Kong and maybe Sammy of Sydney, Australia.
The more Nas raps, the lower he falls in these rankings. You know what I mean?
Ooh, new Nas album came out. Yeah,
Ooh, he's gonna fall
I had him top 5. Now he's top 9.
Right. If we talk about Attaboy specifically at a specific time, sure, the bars were crazy. Illmatic was great, but he's done a lot of music since then. And, woof.
Nasty Nas is back. Ooh, he just dropped out of the top.
Yeah. Ooh, 51. You hate to see it. But it seems like you were
a throwback to Nas's vintage golden era. Ooh, looks like he's top 67.
Yeah. I'm looking at this list, and this has Dietrich written all over it. I'm seeing cities like Mexico City, Barcelona, Portugal, Paris. This is your damn wheelhouse, dude.
They put 3 bars in Barcelona within their top 7, mostly because they thought I might go there.
That's right. And did you?
I went to none of them.
Okay, shift. What would make a top 50 bar for you?
Ooh. I think the best bar in Barcelona is one called Betty Ford. And that's just because it reminds me of the old Max Fish.
It is called
Skaters,
Betty Ford?
it's
That's
called
kind
Betty
of
Ford.
dark.
Yeah, it's a bunch of skaters. It's super international. There's stickers everywhere. They serve cheap drinks. Yeah, I'm kind of a sucker for that vibe.
I'm with you there. I'm a Max Fish dude, but that's what I want. I don't necessarily need skaters or 90s rap music, but I like something that is dialed down. And sometimes it helps that it feels like a secret. Sometimes it helps to feel like certain people wouldn't enjoy it. Like tourists.
I will say, they played the one song that I always bring up as an example when I'm making fun of 90s rap.
Keith
And they
Murray.
played it as soon as I came in.
Uh-oh.
Gangstar, are you working?
Oh, my God.
That's the one song I will always bring up as an example. And as soon as I came in, it was like, are you working?
It's not Nas's I know. How did that song become Gangstar's anthem? Because Hard to Earn was the one, right? And Moment of Truth was kind of the end of that run, but I guess it's sort of like Weezer. They took such a long gap between albums, but now it's been so long, the Green album is classic. So I guess Moment of Truth counts.
Moment of Truth counts, but it was not close to my favorite Gangstar album. If we're going hard in the paint for Gangstar.
What are you talking about?
I don't think Moment of Truth was even among their best 2 albums.
Oh my God. Okay. Go. Rank them. Rank the top 50 Gangstar records. Go.
What was the one before? Hard to Earn. I think that was my favorite.
Hard to Earn. Daily Operation was great.
I think Daily Operation's my second. Step Into the Arena is probably 4th.
Step Into the Arena and No More Mr. Nice Guy are a little too boom bap for me and kind of before my time.
Same.
Guru was old by the time Hard to Earn came out. We knew this. But Moment of Truth was great. I'm not that era of rap I thought was great. I really like Water for Chocolate. I really like a lot of those late records by these classic artists were good. But I think that was the last time, like, afterward. I'm looking at their discog. This is not off the dome.
I was going off memory. So if I fucked up, I apologize. I was just going into the old memory banks.
What about The Owners in 2003?
I don't even think I listened to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember when Full Clip came out, the greatest hits. I think
Full Clip was a good song.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
But I think Primo sort of fell off a little bit after sampling rules made him start using only pretty much records that he'd made. So he stopped with those like really long, elaborate scratch hooks, like on Come Clean, and he started using little kind of boring snippets, like "Are you working?
Yeah. Oh, well,
Are you working?"
I mean, I would say like that is still one of his good songs. His YouTube is still great, but Q-Tip also fell off with the sampling stuff. Or did the whole vibe shift away from that? Because they had a good run of like 20 years. It was about time for something to move away from the scratching hooks.
Totally. I just felt that something changed when he started using these. Maybe it wasn't even a legal issue, but it might have been.
Yeah.
But he started going away from finding one really catchy phrase and just scratching the shit out of it to being these little collages of mini phrases, and I think it sort of took away from the personality. But you're also right though, that music was changing, and he really was the sound of like rap music in the at least elite, incredible production from like Hard to Earn, J. Rue's album, Group Home album, the songs he did for Biggie, for Jay, for Nas. Like he was absolutely the man, in my opinion.
He's a New York
Him and RZA
sound, right? Yeah.
for one period of time. Like Primo was the absolute god, and yeah, you just can't hold that forever anyway. So I may have always interpreted it as something with the samples change, but it also could be this is how rains on top, ebb and flow.
My New York City experience in my lifetime has been shaped by like a handful of people. We mentioned John Carpenter, John Carpenter, Primo, also Larry Clark, Kids, Nan Golden. These are the people I think of who have shaped my perception of this city and in my lifetime. And Premier is like he's top 50 right there, definitely. And I think about him quite a bit because I wanted to come back, and
he's right behind a pile of garbage sitting in the street outside of Attaboy. He's right after that.
That liquid is like bright green because there's like a tire shop right near there, and there's like an e-bike shop, and there's some like mysterious liquids and smells coming from these I don't know, establishments. But and then you're having a nice appletini with some over the sink that is Eldridge Street. But I don't know, New York City, so I can never be mad at Primo. And what upsets me, and I've brought this up before, is just like all these restaurants, man. Like, I hope DJ Premier, he never started a label. He never became his own production house. He was never a businessman. I think he's like partners in some restaurant. I mean, Nas was an investor. Sweet Chick is his. He took a lot of great gambles. A lot of these smart artists made a foundation for their sustained wealth, right? So they can drink drinks with you in Barcelona with Alex Abrinas. But Primo, I don't know. I hope he's sitting on a stack of money because he's one of the gods.
It'd be interesting to find where he was paid the most from.
Yeah, and the NBA still uses his music.
It was the Limp Bizkit song that bought me a house.
Dude, totally. Those stories are crazy. Like when people are like, "Oh, I made all my money on vitamin water." It's like, oh, not the NBA.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Primo. He's a legend. I just that one song is always my rap dad, like catnip.
Yeah, sorry, we went into our shtick too much. Like, tell me about. You walk into this bar, you hear your favorite song. There's a bunch of Spanish wife guys, chilling in the bar. Go.
Tin fish everywhere.
That's right.
Are you
Mollusks.
working?
Yeah, tell me about this bar, man. Does it have that Max Fish energy?
Absolutely does. It without question, Max Fish energy. Like even right, the fact that they were playing Gangstar, that was something that I've heard that song at the Old Fish and the New Fish and any fish in between a million times.
Tin Fish.
I gotta say, man, drinks are pretty cheap there overall. I know New York has different prices, different ecosystem, different economic model, but yeah, you get like 2 drinks. It's €5.
Whoa. Hold up. You're having more than N beer?
It happens every now and then.
What?
But it's really a conversion thing. Like 2 beers there is worth 1 beer here, just because of international economics.
And also, we're not about like rules. You can have N beer like 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. Uno cerveza.
Por favor. Man, so now
sorry, I'm cutting you off because I had a great time, but I feel like I missed the spring drop.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, man. You're missing the culture. You're a tourist in your own city. How's that feel?
It's weird. It was 70 degrees over there. I was walking around with my sleeves showing. I come back here. I'm 2 weeks back in fall mode. What's been going on here? Have you gone autumn, man?
I'd like to make a statement. I never thought I would say this. I am giving up on camouflage. No more camo pants for me. I have a whole closet full of very awesome camouflage pants. I wore them out the other day for first chilly day because they're kind of heavy. Cargos, roll them up, tight at the bottom. Like I did the whole Gangstar thing. I'm done with camo forever, man. I don't like idea of. I don't like the idea of war. I don't like to aestheticize war. I'm just like too old now. I have a child. I don't like the idea of killing. It's not for me, man. I gotta hang up those Gangstar records.
Interesting. I was wearing some camo pants yesterday.
They're awesome. I'm not mad.
Can you separate camo from war?
Yeah, you could. I can't, but you could. Like, there's this wonderful essays Peter Halley's written about them, about painting and what your eye sees. And sometimes camo, it has become aestheticized to a point where it is not directly related to, like, combat. That said, that's it for me, man.
Really?
I'm not going to watch a Dahmer show because it's about killing, even though I know people are talking about it. I can't do it. I love camouflage, but I'm hanging up the cargos, man.
I hear you. I've thought about this. I also feel like it's so separated from war, but maybe that's just what those warmongers want you to think.
That's right. No, I'm with you.
I tried watching some of that Dahmer show on the plane back. I downloaded a couple things because I was worried about the movie selection on the Moroccan Airlines.
Oh, I was going to say.
Turned out it was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched a couple episodes of the Dahmer show, sort of flipping through it, and I didn't know what was enjoyable about it. The guy playing Dahmer,
he's a good actor.
I thought he was good. I thought the acting across the board was good. It definitely had an ambiance to it.
Mayor of Easttown.
Moody.
Right?
What was that?
He was in the Mayor of Easttown.
Yeah. I mean, but it looked sort of like David Fincher-esque, I guess, like the muted colors and 70s looks and things like that. Yeah. It was all well made, but I was struggling to figure out what I was supposed to be enjoying about it.
Yeah.
Like, here's a young Dahmer getting into roadkill. Here's a cut to him in, the early 90s at a gay bar trying to awkwardly seduce guys so he can kill them. I'm like, we're taking this so seriously because we can't talk about someone who murdered all these people especially like a white guy who murdered a bunch of people of color in a way that's for laughs. But we're also supposed to be what? Just repelled by the story of this disgusting serial killer that we've all heard a million times from 3 decades ago? I don't even know what the entertainment value was supposed to be.
Yeah, I think it's a huge industry, and I think, you know, as I understand it, it popped off when, like, post, like the podcast boom, you know, after Serial maybe, and there's big one. I used to listen to Case File all the time, and it was so dark. It was good storytelling, and it's tasty. It feels like a horror story or a monster story, you know, and it was just like, and then this guy has an Australian accent. It's like, dismembered her body and put her in a barrel, you know. I'm like, okay, I don't want these images in my head. After like a year of listening to it, I'm like, I'm done. Smash hit, a whole thing. There's like channels full of like horror stuff, and I get the fascination. It's like looking at like a decaying, like a roadkill, a decaying deer on the side of the street. Like, it's like, I'm interested, but this is gross too. Sort of like having a drink at Attaboy. And I, you know, there's been discussion about this Dahmer thing, about should this have been made. The survivors of the families are upset because they don't want to relive this trauma. 100% correct. And a lot of people are asking, why does this exist? It's a hit, you know, people are watching it. But I don't think it's up. Art doesn't really function like that. It's not up to us to say what can and can't exist. An artist makes something, and then we decide if we like it or not. But I don't think we have the agency to say, like, we cannot retell this story in this way.
Well, I think telling it in a different way that maybe was even more disrespectful,
like a comedy musical,
honestly, may have been more entertaining, and it would have generated an outcry that would have made sense, but it would have been more interesting as art. This felt like, hey, let's tell the story of Jeffrey Dahmer, and we'll do it in a dark and somber way, and it's going to show how fucked up he was.
Yeah. Did you?
But it's also
Blonde?
But to your point before, it didn't feel like this was art that existed outside of its commercial viability. Even though they tried to make it artistic, to make it feel as if it was more than just a blatant money play by sensationalizing something that we've all heard of. It's like every rap punchline for 3 decades. Eating MCs like Jeffrey Dahmer. We get it.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I interrupted, I was going to ask, did you see Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe
I have
movie?
not seen that.
And you heard the chatter around it, right? Like, it's brutal. It depicts her, it shows her as like someone who is this vessel for a significant amount of cruelty in society, personal, emotional. She is kind of this black hole, this all-absorbent kind of recipient of evil, or our own kind of like the worst parts of the people around her. And it was hard to watch, and it also was about a real person. So the discussion around that I read was like, well, this is not a accurate depiction of her life, and we're doing the same thing we did to her when she was alive in her death, and this is just unfair. And obviously that is a reasonable reaction to watching that, but I thought it was a really good work of art. Was it the top 50 movie I saw that night? No, but like it was also good, but it wasn't fun, right? And we've talked about this endlessly, like the dour Gen X movies, Lars Van Trier, Breaking the Waves. It's just like there is no uplifting story in some of these artworks, because that's just not what the like David Fincher wants to do at that time. Does it make for a top movie that you love and want to watch 5 times? No. You know, like, so the Dahmer thing, I think, is easy to ignore. I watched a few minutes and it made me sad, so I turned it off. But I get what the artist is doing, right? It's Francis Bacon. Like, Francis Bacon is one of the best painters to have ever, in the last century. one of his paintings is probably worth 20 of my lives. Take my life. It's not really. It's like murder him or one of those paintings. It's like, well, we need 20 of him to equal the value of one of those paintings. But do I want one in my living room as I'm watching the Knicks go win 40 games in 2023? No way. That thing is dark
I'd much
as hell.
rather have like 20 quos
Living.
in my living room, especially in my living room.
Well, me as a human being, not even an artwork. Like just me, the value of
Just 20 of you
in
like,
20 different
perching,
camo
perching on all parts of my of my furniture. When digital camo, desert camo,
Oh, I got all the camos.
prairie blaze.
Yeah. We made a mistake in the 90s thinking that stuff was cool. But, like, remember WK Interact, that graffiti artist in New York that did, like, dudes with machine guns and tanks, like blurry Xeroxes?
People were really into, like, AK-47s.
Yo, it was crazy. It was just, like, graffiti choppers everywhere. And I'm like, at the time, I was cool with it because I was listening to music that reflected Capone and Noriega's album cover. There was war then, Desert Storm and all that.
And they gave us the report.
CNN, the original CNN,
Channel 10.
That's right. That was a good record. But yeah, so I think this
Word up. That's the station.
Yo, that Photoshop on that cover is sick. The cut and paste. I know the guy who designed that cover, and he was talking to me about it's chef's kiss. But now I would not enjoy that record as much because I'm an older person and I know war fucking sucks. So whatever.
Yeah, well, they just did the was the 25th anniversary of it. I guess that would make sense, right?
Really?
Yeah, it came out in '97.
Is Capone went to jail once only, right?
No, he went to jail a couple times. But yeah, I think that was his 25th anniversary on Nori's Pod radio show, whatever you want to call it. He had like a Penalty Records reunion.
Oh shit. Yo, wasn't it like the Loud
It
Records
was like,
like
6
30
hours.
Yo, we're old, man. I mean, shout out to us for surviving this long, but damn.
Look, the only person of our generation still relevant, Kanye West.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what has he been up to lately?
Oh, wow.
Your man's in them. What has he been doing? Nothing, right? He's been quiet in the cut.
Well, he made that record that everyone's talking about going back to school for his master's degree. It's called Kanye West, the Master.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a hit.
Backpack's even bigger, man. He's like really dug deep into rhymes, beats, life, fucking
He's
breakdancing.
rededicated himself. Nasty Kanye is back. Looks like his Twitter account's been locked.
Ah, what happened, man? Were the bars
What did he?
too good?
Yeah, I think the bars were. There were two flames.
Top 50. Do
Where's-
White Lives
where's
Matter,
this tweet?
man?
Let me. I'm gonna read it off. This is a good one. Where's the part? He said he was a bit tired. I like that part. Like I'm a bit sleepy. So
Portland
I'm
Trailblazers
not-
fan. Shout out to Damian Lillard.
he had some takes about their acquisition of Jeremy Grant, and then said he's going DEFCON 3 on all caps Jewish people. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who opposes your agenda. And then his tweet was deleted and his account was locked. Why won't they let him speak his truth, Andrew?
Well, it was a confusing tweet because he says, but I am not anti-Semitic because I'm also Jewish. And this comes on the heels of him in hanging out with you in Paris Fashion Week, where he unleashed a controversial T-shirt graphic.
Yeah, that was my idea.
Yeah, and it's not as controversial as our New York Yankees drop available on cookies.com celebrating Aaron Judge and them boys going into the playoffs, re-release after a quick sellout the first time. So get your grubby mitts on those, all you New York Gangstar heads.
Absolutely, that's true. That was really the talk of Gay Paris.
That's right.
So yeah, your man's came out there with the White Lives Matter shirt. He came out there with your girl Candace Owen. Then he went after the Jewish people with his DEFCON 3 threats. Mm-hmm. Did he actually go DEFCON 3 or no?
No, someone's trying to explain the DEFCONs to me, and I was like, well, I like Cannibal Ox, like LP's a legend, Company Flow forever, homies, but I couldn't really follow after that.
Wow, he went Aesop Rock all over the Jewish people's asses this morning.
Yeah.
DEFCON 3.
Hey, man. Definitive. Everything comes back to Fat Beats, man. Come on. Yeah, but someone was trying to explain all the DEFCONs to me, and apparently, like, a DEFCON 3 doesn't mean anything. I guess DEFCON 1 means something. Whatever. I have the most annoying take about all this, which is the skill of ignoring Kanye needs to be honed better. This guy's clearly having another episode. He is mentally ill, and I know the first thought is it does not give an excuse. I agree. Like, he is saying despicable, bad things, kind of leaving bait out there, but not really understanding what that White Lives Matter means. It's not literally as he explains it, but I think white lives do matter. I was like, okay, we all get that. We've been through this cycle, but you're tipping your cap to a bigger thing, right? Like, symbols matter, symbols mean something, words don't always mean what they mean. But he's not thinking about that because he is mentally ill, man.
Yeah, but then he went all Def Jam 2, Fight for New York on everyone.
Yeah, and
following his Def Jam vendetta.
Does Def Jam still make records?
Yeah.
Like,
Gabe's still over there?
No, he's not.
Talking. He's not?
I don't know
He's
what
at
capacity. But
well, he's at Universal, right?
yeah. It's changed a lot. I'm not up to speed. Gotta call that dude up. But like, that was a long time ago, man. Those records came out when we were kids, when we were all skinny before we were fat and got skinny again. It's a lot of weight fluctuation, man. Speaking for myself.
Well, my Kanye take here. I'm with you in that he is a mentally ill person with a platform.
What platform, though?
Just fame, celebrity. Whether
no one
that's
gives a
Fox
fuck
News
about
or whether that's
Sure.
Twitter, whatever. That the average person with these kind of mental health issues who babbles things, it doesn't pick up steam where it becomes a national story.
Okay, fair,
I think that's
fair,
true.
Fair, yeah.
So when someone says he's perpetuating violence against Jewish people and anti-Semitism, I'm like, well, you're not wrong, because he is saying these things that are then amplified throughout the media and even by people who disagree with his message, and in particular with people who disagree with his message. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just how things work, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he's a famous person who says something that's fucked up, and then everyone discusses it. This is as you said, this is the main character. Kanye is the endless main character. What strikes me is, it's kind of amusing about him, is that all of his grievances are really just kind of about him.
Always.
It's kind of remarkable to be that self-centered. It's almost beautiful. Mm-hmm. Where he's there talking to Tucker Carlson. Well, so Anna says this, and then Bella. It's like, dude.
Tucker can't even follow him.
It's incredible. Here's my issues with the Jewish people. What they've done to me. Like, okay. Your issues with the fashion world. Yeah, it's really what they've done to Kanye West and the stymieing of his dreams and his plans.
Not unlike
cancel
Trump.
Culture.
You have Trump on
Totally.
Such rambling, right?
It's the same thing, but what's your problem with cancel culture? My ideas are being criticized.
Yeah.
It's just all him. Like, the society and all of its levers and the machinations of the elders of Zion, everybody, they're all conspiring to do what? To mess with me. All right.
I've had a few bipolar, talk about me. I've had a few bipolar friends in my life, and they're not nice. They're not friendly. They're not generous. And I think people with mental illness can be all those things, you know? But these specific people were not. And I don't think Kanye is either. And I'm not giving him an excuse, but I am questioning the narrator, right? So when Kanye says this stuff and goes off, I got a friend who used to talk about, he was talking about his desperation, and he would go through wild swings in one night, and it would be dark, and it would all come back to the fact that he got kicked out of a project he kind of started, and it all came back to what the person who kicked him out was about. And I can really empathize with that, because sometimes the world seems like a really fucked up place, and I don't envy Kanye, because his brain is on fire and he walks the edges of societal norms, right? So he's trying to make people hear him. And you mentioned main character. I think Twitter, I have a theory that my Twitter circle has 5 or 6 main characters, and every time one of these main characters does something, we debate back and forth. Why are we paying attention to him? How despicable is he? Why isn't he canceled? Whatever. It's the same thing. And I'm thinking Draymond Green, Kanye West, Ben Simmons, Andrew Yang, Bernie Sanders, Nathan Fielder. They are the main characters in my Twitter.com world. But when you get out and talk to humans, they don't really care about, it's did you hear the last Kanye rant? They're like, no, what did he say? It's well, he said these despicable things about a group of people. And they're like, oh, yeah, I don't pay attention to him. Isn't he crazy? And I'm like, I'm sorry for saying that word. Isn't he mentally ill? But people don't really say that. And they're like, I like his shoes. I don't own any Kanye shoes. I listen to all his music. I don't have any Yeezy anything. I don't even wear his shirts. But I see his shirts out all the time. And it's sort of like that Nirvana thing we were talking about. If I rolled up to a kid who was wearing a Pablo shirt, and I was like, did you hear that Kanye rant? They'd be like, no, what did he say? And if I said it, they'd be like, that sucks. I'm like, what about the shirt? And they're like, it's tight. This is all a Twitter.com thing, in my opinion.
Well, there's that. There's also just this back and forth about kind of non-ideas, where people have drawn their line in the sand, and it's whether it's Kanye talking about cancel culture or people being offended by the thing he's saying, it's just, to me, very tiresome. Yes, I get it. He said something that is anti-Semitic. Yes, that's lame. Yeah. Bad Kanye. Don't say that. Come on. Yeah. But also getting upset about it, and then Kanye can then play the victim and say they're trying to censor me, and you're like, what ideas are we trying to discuss here? Are we really trying to talk about Jewish people running the planet? Is that the discussion that Kanye actually wants to have, or does he want to have a discussion about how he wants to be able to say things and not receive any criticism for it? What are we actually doing? And you see that downtown in New York. I want to say that Methodists are bad people. And they're like, you aren't ready to hear my ideas. And a Methodist is like, well, I'm not a bad person. Stop canceling me. But there's just, it just feels to be like it's just intellectual masturbation from both sides. Everyone being the victim. I don't really get what these thoughts that everyone's afraid to let me speak are, other than kind of just using slurs. Yeah. I want to call people a retard. Okay, then use that word. Yeah. But people get mad at me for saying it. All right. Yeah. Are we done? Yeah. Can we just move on? You decide to use that word, and then if you do, people are going to be annoyed. Are we all on the same page?
Not caring is a skill, and it's a skill I'm trying to get better at. But Kanye had my attention for years, and then I think maybe after Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, after seeing him go on a lot of his rants, I stopped listening to him, right? So, when he said George Bush does not care about black people, I was like, oh damn, we got to talk about this. What a crazy thing for Kanye West to say. Now Kanye says this stuff, I'm like, you can't listen to him. Like, he had his chance. I'm not saying everyone, like, I hate telling people to calm down. Like, that is rude, that is dismissive. I'm not doing that. But what I am saying is, like, pace yourself here, because Kanye is not going to stop doing this. And what he says is despicable, and we should take that seriously. But what he says, you should probably ignore, in the way that when he ran for president, everyone ignored him. It was like a joke. I claim he has no political or cultural sway with MAGA people or liberals. I think he just floats out there by himself, which is a deeply melancholy place, I think.
I would agree. I don't think he has any clout at all.
Zero.
In terms of
Yep.
making people do things. I don't believe that there are a bunch of guys who are, huge fans of Life of Pablo who are like, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you know what? It is time to go Def Jam 2 on the Jewish people.
That's
What
me
ca-
blowing
what-
off my Cannibal Oxyphino. Yeah.
What character would you play in Dime Square Fight for NY? Dime Square Vendetta.
I mean, and this whole debate, I tweeted something I knew would get a reaction, which was like, remember that he has a mental illness, and I got a lot of heat for it. Just like, you're as bad as him. You're complicit, and I'm like, I don't know. These all feel like things that we're supposed to say when this happens, but like, remember to respect him as a person who does not perceive reality in the way you might perceive it. He's thinking about something else, man. And it's hard to like talk about Kyrie Irving that way. Like, the flat earth stuff, right? When that happened, we joked about it at the time. You can't take him seriously. He's doing a thing. He doesn't actually think the earth is flat. If he does, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? And what Kanye said is much more harmful because, I don't know, it's irresponsible of him. But he doesn't live in a world of responsibility. And
that's a great point. But I do think your underlying point is one that we would all do well to remember. It's like, who cares what other people think? And you see this happen, as you said earlier, on Twitter constantly. Hey, some idiot somewhere said something.
right.
And like, gather round. Let's respond.
Right.
Like, who is this? Oh, I think he's a press secretary for some MAGA guy, or maybe someone running for office in
They've been
Indiana.
saying.
And he said what now? About who? Wow, they're saying the quiet part out loud. Like, I don't care what some guy says somewhere.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying to unlock the Sue character in Dime Square Fight for New York.
Oh, I lost $40 to Sue in like 20 seconds the other night. Happy birthday, Sue.
Well, I'm going to play with Bobby next time.
Yo.
I'm going hammer.
What's up with this John Cleese cancel culture show, man?
It just sounds like, being that we are tranquil Gen Xers,
John
don't
Cleese is
feel
a
like-
Gen X hero, even though he's a boomer.
I know, absolutely was. And now I feel like we don't talk about that cancel culture is just anti-PC culture. It's literally the same fucking shit. It's Andrew Dice Clay being like, yeah, this PC. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
Musatel.
What a weird comedian that was.
It's just the same shit.
Yeah.
Ranting about anti-PC culture. It's the same thing as cancel culture. It's the same exact debate about ideas, what you're allowed to say, comedians being on the vanguard of this. It's so boring.
Yeah, I'm done with this, man. I am tired of it. There's nothing new coming out of it. And it's been around for a while, so it's time to cycle out. Like, cancel culture had even a good sophomore album. But the third album, I can kind of like, I'm going to take a break a little bit.
Has culture stalled? Are we just on a loop?
Man, shout out to all the great bands that are getting together and performing for us. Like, you know how much I feel about a Cookies Hoops podcast legend, Steve Malkmus and Pavement.
King.
Maybe my favorite band ever. I took a subway home the other night and I listened to his songs and got a little weepy. Like, I love that music. Yeah Yeahs are back. I think LCD Sound System is doing like a run in this fall, for like a zillion shows, and it occurred to me that two things. Have we stalled out? Like the iPhone 14 is disappointing for everybody. There's no innovation there. We're just like putting new trappings on old ideas. Or are we old enough, or we're young enough to think that we're still innovating, but we're old enough not to be innovating? So we're not noticing that we have become the people who go to Madison Square Garden and buy reunion concert t-shirts.
Well, thank God you've got podcasts like Cookies Hoops pushing it forward by discussing where DJ Premier went wrong.
Top 50 slices, Ben. Go.
So when he stopped using the hooks like he did on J. Rue's Come Clean.
Okay, name me 50 Louisville Sluggers 50 best bars.
Was Papooses alphabet song better than the Blackalicious alphabet song?
Smith & Wesson, go.
Yeah, so we're pushing it forward. We're the only ones who are getting it right.
But like DJ wise, like I went to, I don't know, we talked about it. I went to see Jamie XX, Omar S, Fortet, Floating Points, old heads.
So you're doing.
Old
You're doing what we're talking about.
They're
You're,
old heads.
You're a revivalist.
I love no band more than Pavement. Maybe. I love that. I couldn't see them because it didn't work out schedule wise. My life sucks. But like, I miss those shows, and I had legit FOMO. I was staring out into the fall scene of my window, being like, I bet you they're playing Gold Sounds right now.
Yeah, I think there is a certain point where you just start being the boomers, and the boomers
Hans,
did it,
are we the boomers? Yeah.
Are we the boomers? Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yep.
That just happens to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you just only start caring about the culture that you liked when you were 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And you go and you see them in Las Vegas. And it's just interesting when it's Gen X, because Gen X was so inherently dedicated to being outside our culture that when it becomes inherently inside our culture, it becomes a little jarring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've accepted this, and I used to pine to be in a room full of young people with new ideas. And I think I was texting you. I went to the opening ceremony anniversary party, a boomer party during Fashion Week, but it's filled with young people listening to old music, but filled with young people. And I remember texting and being like, "Oh, I'm overwhelmed, man. I don't understand these people. I don't know where to sit. Like, yo, every single person here is cooler than me and very young." And I hung out for a while, but like, I've accepted my fate, which is one fate closer to death. But like, I'm like, it's okay if I'm that dude in the corner wearing like a Pavement t-shirt. Like, that's just me. I cannot hide that. Yo, I'm gonna come out and say I'm Gen X, man. I have that Gen X tranquility, even more so than ever. I got that Ethan Hawke, Steve Zahn energy flowing through my veins. But I can't pretend anymore, man. I go into a Jamie XX show, which is boomer, and I'm like checking up on my family, make sure everything's okay, making sure like I get home at a reasonable hour. Life is a great long journey, Ben.
Well, I think when I was out in Paris, I realized that I just can't really do strobe lights anymore.
Okay, go on.
I was at several parties. Strobe lights were popping off.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't like this anymore. I like to be able to see. I like to be able to talk to people. Instead, loud music, strobe lights. Maybe I'm just not the target audience anymore for strobe lights and loud music. Perhaps this isn't just about me.
So I want to start, and I hope you will come, like maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. I just want to sit down at a bar with a bunch of old dudes and some pints and only listen to the hardest jungle. And I met some dude who is an OG in that scene, and he's got that Hackney accent. I was like, do you own all these shit Matt records? Do you have all the original Rumble in the Jungle singles that they sourced? And he was like, I have them all. I live in New Jersey, but like I have them all in my living room. I'm like, will you bring them out? Can the 5 of us get pints and just listen to like pre-Metalhead's Jungle? He's like, forever. I want to do this. This is what washed me looks like.
I feel like that's a legitimate washed icon.
Yeah. Oh, but no
Like
dancing. Yeah.
Hello, washed legend.
I've also grown 6 inches, but I don't know, man. Like, I was griping about this last weekend. Like, I just don't know where to go. But the NBA season's starting, so that problem will be solved very soon.
Well, fortunately, the NBA season is starting without a hitch. Nothing with owners being forced out. Nothing controversial at all.
No one's getting punched.
What's your man's Draymond up to? Oh no. He's causing the disciplinary levers to click into gear. So a video came out that showed Draymond hauling off and hitting his teammate Jordan Poole. It's followed like some words. Poole gave him a push, and then Draymond appeared to lay him out. The video cut before you saw if Poole was actually splayed out unconscious, but you did see those knees buckle. He caught a bad one.
It was an MMA move. It wasn't a boxing move. Dre leaned into it, connected, and immediately grappled him. It was kind of impressive.
Yeah, so we saw that, and then Poole fortunately came back and played last night and
Beautiful
pulled off
moves.
some gorgeous moves. So he looks like he
floater.
is at least none the worse the wear from a basketball standpoint. I don't know how his ego feels, but he's out there, and Draymond is currently not with the team following this incident. We're a couple days late. Most people have probably discussed this, but we haven't. So what's your take on this? Was this a legitimate thing to happen? Is this a big deal? Should Draymond be incarcerated, charged with assault? What's the Quo solution? Give me the Andrew take.
Leave it between the players. Let them figure it out. There's a tradition of this. I even saw this in my varsity team in high school on the bus of the good player being accused of not being a team player, and then fists and connections, and then the coach took care of it, and there was tension, but it was okay. And I don't want to validate it with like the authenticity of my own experience, but this has happened in the NBA as well. Most famously, Michael Jordan gave Will Perdue a black eye, Steve Kerr a black eye, and they kept it team oriented. Everyone was forgiven. The fault of Dre here is we saw it, and it was such a clean punch. It was just like, ooh, wow, he really got him. We never saw the Jordan punch on Kerr, but he gave him a black eye. I think this is also mirrors my Kanye take, which is like, we don't need to be police officers here. I mean, the Kanye thing is more despicable than this. Assault sucks. He should not have punched Poole. I'm not into it. If I was part of that team, I'd be like, Dre, you suck. You have a lot of work to do to get back into our good graces as a family member, because that was awful. That said, no cops, please. Everyone just leave us alone.
I hear all that. My thing about it being just part of the team dynamic, a lot of players were saying, I've never seen anything like that. And from my experience, I've definitely seen a number of fights on the basketball court. I've seen fights that started that were broken up. I've seen people throw punches.
Every time.
This has all happened. And I get what you mean by saying, well, Dre's was just a better punch, and that's what makes it different from someone throwing a punch and missing, was that it connected. I got to say, he threw it with really bad intentions that to me are kind of a violation of a team environment. Like if someone did that on the playground, it's like, hey, you guys don't know each other. If you're going to fight, you're going to really fight. And as you said, you push someone and keep your hands up. I get all that. I do think in a team environment, where you guys are supposed to be friends, your coworkers, that's someone throwing a punch that was that hard, that really came from nothing. It wasn't like Poole had punched him. Poole
Do
just
we know
they
what
had
Poole
words
said?
and Poole shoved him off.
We still
No
don't
idea.
know what he said.
But I
Brett.
no, there were all these rumors, but I can't tell what's a joke and what's not.
Like free Young Thug, unless Young Thug's in jail, free him, unless.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe he said something that was just absolutely wild. But with that caveat, Poole is not expecting a punch where the guy is trying to like knock his fucking block off, like seriously to break his jaw. And the only examples that we can give where someone that we know of was like the one with your boy, was it Nocioni? No, I think it's,
yeah, that was one.
not him. No, not him. It was the
Ruben
dude
Patterson,
from
Zebo.
No, it was Bobby Portis and not Nocioni, but
yeah.
another Milicek. No, what am I spacing on his name?
Nocioni, I think. Portis.
No,
Nocioni.
that's the Argentinian guy. That's the Argentinian guy.
Yeah,
we're talking about the guy who went back to
Milicek
Europe.
is right. Nikola Mirotic.
Mirotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I spaced on that, but that was a teammate breaking another guy's jaw on his own team. But that certainly could have happened last night, or with the Draymond incident. When this
If
occurred.
the footage came out of that, we'd be in trouble. Yeah, Mirotic would be in trouble. No, Portis responded, right? And everyone had his back.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but that's the last time that we heard about a player like really getting crushed.
That we heard about.
The MJ one on Kerr, I just think there's a big difference between someone throwing a jab and someone
We're getting into
throwing,
some like granular shit, though.
but I also think it's not granular. I think there's I'm mad at you and I'm going to hit you, and I'm mad at you and I'm going to try to kill my teammate and a guy who I won a title with, who I ride around with in the bus. Maybe you don't like each other, but there is a shared commonality of we are professionals in this environment. Like punching someone that you work with is one thing. Throwing with like your entire back and your legs and trying to slump them and then rushing them and kind of crushing them into the wall, that's not a normal, I'm mad at you, I'm going to jab you in the eye. And I know this is semantics, but it is different.
I mean, when I say I don't want cops, they don't want cops involved, and nor should they, is we're just like we're coding on the fly, being like, okay, the code says that's okay, but the code says you can't punch that hard. It's like, how hard? Well, you can't knock him out. It's like, what if Poole wrapped him up? Like, okay, the code says that's enough of that. I appreciated Draymond's apology. I thought, he's an intense guy. He does nothing halfway, as we've seen in the finals, right? To his detriment. He does nothing halfway. We have to know the characters in play here. It can't be all hypothetical. We have to know what Kanye has said before he says that despicable thing. We have to know who Draymond is before we talk about this punch that we shouldn't even seen. And knowing Draymond's history, I'm like, I think he's going to come at Poole pretty hard. And Poole should know this too.
I agree with that, but again, I'm not judging Draymond on the things he's done in the past. I think you're correct. And I'm not even judging it by saying there needs to be assault charges, there needs to be this, the team should suspend him. I'm not even coming up with any punitive solutions here. I'm just saying, from a basketball culture standpoint, I watched it and I was like,
nasty. It was nasty.
Him throwing that hard, to me, it felt different.
It felt crazy, but we've never seen. But we didn't see Mirotic, Portis. We didn't see Jordan, and
no doubt. But I'm not saying that people haven't thrown punches with bad intentions in practices a lot. But I'm also saying, as someone who has played basketball for like decades on end.
But this is the authenticity thing again, right?
I know, but I'm saying, as someone who's played for decades on organized teams for years and years and years, on rec teams, in leagues, at the playground, at the YMCA, I've played so much basketball. I can't recall one time where I saw someone just haul off and knock someone out with a punch like that. I've seen guys square up. I've seen guys
throw. Why are you playing such soft leagues? No, I'm just kidding.
I just mean across the board, any level, I have not seen someone like knock someone out in that way. Just, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but that struck me as unique.
I remember a few years ago I was sitting on the Christie Street courts near Whole Foods, and I was watching a game. Really good players. I saw a fight. saw someone connect. It looked like a broken orbital, man. It was crazy. Some guy was just bleeding, and people were like, "Yo, that was uncalled for." He was like, "He disrespected me." I'm like, that sucked. But like, our experiences don't matter here, right? Like, a lot of people on Twitter are like, "Yo, I played organized ball. I play every week. Never have I." I mean, of course, this is all kind of random stuff. I just saw it like a few years ago on a bright sunny day on Houston and Christie.
But it does matter though, right? If we're talking about what is acceptable within basketball, like within the culture of basketball, if we know like the Rudy Tomjanovich punch, like that is infamous. That
was an
broke
opponent.
his face.
Yeah,
Right, that was an opponent. And
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
In our book, when we were writing about Malice in the Palace, I think it was one of the big men. Who's the white guy who always had funny hair? Who's on the Pacers at the time? And he was saying, when you're fighting with other guys in the league, there is an understanding that you guys are both professionals. That people might like throw hands. You're going to fight, but when you encounter the fans, all those rules are off. And that's why I think these ideas about, well, what is acceptable within the context of a team or on the basketball court or what is outside of the boundaries of that do matter, because we're not talking about hockey where it's like, drop the gloves, let's get at it, and that's just part of the culture of the sport.
I claim this is part of the culture.
I mean,
there's so many examples,
I'm saying fist fights do happen. But again, like that video of someone on the same team just really trying to kill somebody just struck me as pretty outside the boundaries of normalcy. I'll say that much.
No doubt. I was shocked too. And the discussion I read in my little corner of Twitter is like people establishing their toughness and their authenticity. And, you had someone like Damian Lillard from the Trailblazers saying that he wrote a really long post about it, and I kind of agreed with him. He was like, that was foul, that what happened, but like this competitive people are driven to the point where sometimes this stuff happens, and we're not condoning it, but like this needs to be understood as kind of a byproduct of the thing, and family members should keep this between themselves. Like, me and you have been at a bar where we've seen two friends fight. And
for sure.
And I'm not calling the cops. I'm not getting the bouncer. I'm like, you guys fucking deal with this, man. What are you really mad at here? Are you actually mad? And Draymond Green has a short fuse, as we know, in games. And I think he was wrong here, and I think his apology was good enough for me. And not that I matter, but it felt real, and he's stepping away from the team, and Jordan Poole had a nice game. Like, I don't need my pound of flesh here.
Yeah, no, I don't either. I don't. They can handle this as men. They can handle this as a team. I also don't feel like the release of the video is something insane, where people are like, oh my God, that person needs to be fired. That's crazy. I'm like, this isn't fucking WikiLeaks, man.
Right.
This video of a fight during practice. Like, grow up.
Well, it's a classic. Kerr's doing a classic Trump thing, right?
This who leaked it? Sense of like, of oh my God, wow, that's the leaked practice footage. Shut up, man! It's a basketball game.
Yeah.
That's literally practice. You're a basketball team. It's not national secrets.
Yeah.
We went down to Mar-a-Lago, ran up in there, and had to get back those videos of Warriors practice.
My conversations that were illegal. Who leaked those? Let's find that leaker. We cannot have a leaker in the White House like that. Like. This is. I don't want to sound like all these things are boring to me, because I think they're all interesting and I think about them, but sometimes the reactions to me are very Donovan Mitchell. It's just like, well, whoop whoop, it's just like, this is how I see law and this is how I see what's right, and I don't think this is authentic and this is not valid, and I'm going to make a sweatshirt that says I'm the real rookie. I get very fatigued of that, especially recently, because Twitter is now losing a lot of its power, and it feels like people are just barking ideas that sound authentic.
I love sparking ideas that sound authentic. And I'd like to do it right now. We are going to see some of the most blatant tanking
Nah,
in NBA
I was waiting for this. Okay, woo. All right.
We don't have to rehash our respective tanking takes.
Ooh, By the Joy of Basketball. It's all in there at every bookseller.
Well, if you're not familiar, if you're one of the countless scads of new Patreon subscribers who are flooding in, I'm going to give you mine in one sentence, and Andrew will give you his incorrect one. Mine is this: if you start out saying we are going to rebuild this year, we are going young, we're going to play our youthful talent, and we know we're going to be bad, and we're going to build through the draft, I got no problem with it. My issue is that when there's 3/4 of the season left and teams say, actually, we don't really like what's going on here, and then they just bench all their old guys and intentionally lose games. I don't think that's that fun. That's my little differentiation. If you're honest about it and saying, hey, we're going to be young and bad and fun and sloppy, that's cool. I don't like when teams pull the plug and just lose games rampantly. Don't like that.
But in terms of, if we're talking 90s rap and a news story that's happening now in the scandalous, cutthroat world of chess, it's like sometimes you sacrifice pieces for the ultimate goal, right? So it's just like that is something that happens with or without vibrating anal beads connected to computers. Amazing story, just fucking amazing story. But I think I hear you. It's disappointing as a fan who watches games and to see a team just bail 3/4 of the way in. That's kind of a bummer.
And the thing is, I know it's not unpopular with fans of those teams. Usually they encourage it. Okay, we're 20 and 35.
The results can be very fruitful, though.
Let's just get out there and lose all these games and jump up in the draft. And fans of that team are rooting for that. I've seen this happen with the Sixers. You've seen it happen with the Knicks. This happens all the time with bad teams. Yeah. You start rooting for your own team to lose. This is not unique.
You start rooting for a different game. It's a larger picture.
Yeah, I just think it's lousy for basketball overall when you have certain teams who were attempting to be competitive all of a sudden just say, oh, we have no interest in winning whatsoever, and those games just suck to watch down the stretch. Mm-hmm. That's my main objection. That a lot of those games are less fun than teams that are young and trying to kind of put things together and develop a personality and play a certain way and are just developing with an eye on the draft later in the season to ones that just pull the plug. That's my only little differentiation. It's not even a huge thing.
But let me ask you this question.
I don't have a real problem with tanking overall.
Is watching on is watching on TV like Orlando Magic versus the Knicks in Orlando, like a 112 to 110 game late in the season, is that like that great?
No, I just like it. I just dislike it when a team that was in like, the 12th spot suddenly reels off 16 losses in a row. It's like, come on, guys, this just sucks.
I mean, the cold-hearted part of me kind of loves it because I love like young players, and when this happens, it's just like they're not rolling out old veterans. Old veterans will not stand for this. They're rolling out like these skinny kids who they have on 2-way contracts, and I'm like, this is more interesting than like Julius Randle just getting his.
Yeah, I hear that. And some of those guys are fun, but it is often that you got to be a deep draft head and have a quo big board to appreciate it when
Flames.
Like, wait, who are these guys? I'm not even familiar with one of these players that the Pistons are rolling out here. Where's Beef Stew?
Right. I mean, so obviously we're talking about Victor Wembanyama, and he's playing games and he looks incredible, and people are legitimately excited. And there's at least 6 or 7 teams hoping to land this generational talent, right?
It looks that way, and it seems as if it's going to be pretty furious when it comes down to the stretch, because if you've invested in losing for the season, or if you're going to lose this season because you want Wembanyama, you might as well be competitive about that and go get the most ping pong balls. You know, they leveled the odds to make it less favorable to be absolutely terrible, but better odds are still better odds.
I agree. Yeah, you want to be in pole position there because, like, it's just numbers, you know? And there's another short king on the scene, Scoot Henderson. Did you get to watch their matchup before Scoot got
I saw all the highlights. I thought Scoot looked really good.
Yo, he's
Obviously,
good, man.
No, he looks nasty.
Yeah.
He reminds me of John Wall, kind of.
Hell
in that
yeah.
explosive, plays bigger than his height, finishes with authority around the rim.
So
Great
skilled.
athlete.
Yeah.
He looked great.
Yeah.
I don't know if Wall is a comparison that people have been making, but he reminded me of, or maybe Derrick Rose, a guy who is on in the lower sixes, but
Stephon Marbury.
still Marbury. Yeah, those are all good. Like some guys who are like Kyrie is around 6 feet tall and he plays around 6 feet tall. He's an incredible finisher, maybe the best who's ever lived, but he doesn't. He you can see it. It's all guile and caginess and craft and touch. Scoot plays with a muscularity that Rose and Wall did as well.
Brolic. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, obviously the only discussion with Wembanyama, and sadly I'm interested in this, is like his body worries me a little. That's the only knock. Skills, tantalizing, and size is a skill. And you cannot teach how big Victor is. And he has the speed of a player smaller than him. I don't need to describe why he is a generational guy. But after seeing Chet kind of ruled out for the season after defending a simple layup versus LeBron, who's a big man, but he landed awkward, and we were worried about this going into Chet's pro career. And Porzingis, I kind of love this year, but like he's had a really uneven career, mostly because of injury. And I think it's fair to say Victor is the number one overall pick, regardless. But that body, like, is Scoot gonna have like a safer prognosis? Like, Scoot looks like, if you looked at these two body types and you're like, anything can happen at any point, but I'm betting on the long-term value of Scoot Henderson.
It's hard to say because I know that guys who are over 7 feet tall have a very blemished history. Just that's a lot of feet. It's a lot of legs. There are a lot of places where their mobility can go wrong.
Jaren Jackson.
And we saw that. I mean, I'm talking like even bigger. Yao Ming, Rick Smits,
Ooh.
Ilgauskas.
Ostertag.
And then of course you said Porzingis. There is just
The unicorns.
guys over 7 feet tall. Ralph Sampson. Guys who are that big have leg and foot issues all the time. At the same token, you look at Wemby and you say, there is a world in which he is the best basketball player who's ever lived.
Easily. Yeah. Yep.
You're
He's
just
that good.
You're like, he might be. I don't know how you can turn down that upside.
No, I'm not saying
Even knowing that, yeah, he's probably going to have a leg injury. He's probably going to have an ankle or foot or knee issue at some point, and it may end his career.
Yeah.
But a 7'4" guy who can dribble like that, move like that, shoot like that, protect the rim, you look at him and you say, he's him.
I know. So I was the other night. I was going through. This is what fall me does, man. I go through hype reels of Victor Wembanyama versus hype reels of Evan Mobley as a prospect. And the Victor stuff is wild because he's doing crossovers. His feet are just moving everywhere. He's falling out of bounds shooting threes. And like, I watch Evan Mobley's highlights. He's straight up. He doesn't move much. He's like Tim Duncan. He's set. He shoots. He runs back. He doesn't dance much at all. Like, he is pretty economical in his movements. And I look at Victor, and this is the feeling I got with Porzingis, and listening to people like doctors talk about it. He's like, the pressure Porzingis puts on his knees when he like does a simple crossover is different than any other player because of his frame, because of his size, and because of like energy and force and whatever equation you want to put into it. And Victor is one of those guys who dances, and that's what makes him so tantalizing. It's because he does forwardish things with the ball, and it's what makes him. That's what our imaginations get carried away with. Like, have we ever seen a player like this? Like, maybe not. This is an evolution. And then only the pessimist in me says, like, but he's exactly the type of big man that we worry about.
No, I agree. And like, well, you've got size 20 feet and you leave the ground a lot. You're going to step on someone's foot.
Yeah.
Like, you are going to land on someone's ankle sooner rather than later because you have feet the size of a pontoon.
Yeah, man. It's worth tanking for him. So I'm going through all the teams that are gunning for him. Forgive me if I'm forgetting anyone. The Spurs, Rockets, Thunder, Pacers, Jazz, Magic, Pistons. I think that's like maybe the Kings. I think those teams are hoping and playing for him or Scoot.
I don't think the Kings are tanking at all. They might end up tanking.
Maybe so.
I don't think right now they're tanking.
Sabonis.
I think they're still like hunting for that actual playoff berth like at some point.
They're one of those teams that might do what you're saying, like quit halfway through or something.
Totally possible them. I mean, they weren't that bad last year. They were 30-52, which is like, all right, but we can see 500. Yeah. It's over there. It's on the horizon. If we just climb this hill, we can be a 500 team and technically make the playoffs.
And I listed these teams, and I want to know your opinion on this. Like, if wherever the ping pong balls may
man,
lie,
they fucking sucked last year too.
The Kings.
Yeah,
I hate that franchise. I'm so annoyed at them, man. Like the Knicks, like, do better, man. Ugh, anyway, I love the Kings. I love Stojakovic. I love Weber, man. It's a shame, but anyway, we'll talk about them when they're relevant. But okay, so there's a couple teams that, of the teams I listed, like if Victor or Scoot went there, a couple of them would be like, okay, now they need more. But a few of them are built in a way that is terrifying. And I'm thinking of the Pistons and Thunder. If they land one of these two guys, like, we're looking at like a very successful rebuild.
I would put Houston in that category too.
I agree. Yeah. Another one. I think the Spurs are behind all those teams. I think the Pacers are just starting. The Jazz are just starting. The Magic, who knows? But those three teams.
Yeah, the Spurs are one of those teams they really should have been doing a hard rebuild since they traded Kawhi, but they haven't really.
I know.
They've kind of just. But I think that's also fair, right? If you're Popovich and you don't feel like embarking on an actual rebuild, then like he shouldn't have to. He's led that team and that franchise to so much glory. Like, you're allowed to just sort of plod along for a little while, especially knowing what happened to him in his personal life. And I think he was probably going to retire, and then his wife passed away. And I think he just kept working as a result. I don't think you organizationally are indebted to say, you know what, we're totally pulling the plug, we're going to win 15 games. Because, like,
no,
you've had so much success. You've had so much success. You can kind of do what you want. It's fair.
I agree. Yeah, they got your boy Josh Richardson on the roster, so they're looking up.
But this year the Spurs certainly look like a full tanking operation.
Like Devin Vassell is their top primo and Vassell. I mean, I like Pirtle, but like, yeah. I mean.
Primo is obviously just best known for his sausages.
Oh, Eric Adams' ass take there. I respect that.
That is a crazy roster right now.
I mean, I love
McDermott, Richardson, Pirtle, Zach Collins, Romeo Langford, Sochan. It's kind of cool.
I mean, I love Trey Jones and Sohan. I don't love Trey Jones. I like Sohan. I like Pirtle quite a bit, and he was the pick that the Knicks would have had if they hadn't traded it for Bargnani.
I like Pirtle too. He's good. He's good.
Yeah, he's cool, and Keldon Johnson. I mean, it's not lost. If you add Wembayana there, they need something else, But like, I want to talk about the three teams we did mention, which is, to your point, Houston, the Pistons. I just love what they're doing. They're not going to be good. I'm not saying they're going to win a championship, but they made quick work of this rebuild. It took 2 years. I mean, Blake Griffin is still in the league, signing contracts with the BMM, and he was on their roster like 2 years ago.
It is wild that they've done this so quickly. But so you're saying you're all on board with their rebuild so far?
So far, so good, right? Like, Duren is interesting, but I think, man, I love Cade Cunningham.
This gets. I was going to say, this gets too into this year's rookie class, which I just don't know that much about because you're the big board maestro. I mean, everyone loves Ivy.
He's fun.
I love Beef Stew.
Yeah.
RX Stew. I love him. They have Nerlens, another one of my kings. So I like guys on that team. And,
Fort Knox,
and
City Pay, Killian Hayes. I
liked Cade. I thought, I liked his abilities when he was picked. I didn't watch him a ton over the course of his year. He struggled for part of it. I watched him late in the season.
He's good.
Like, he is a gifted player, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's such an advantage when you have a big guard who can just see the floor, can pass over people. I'm a fan. I know he struggles from shooting,
right,
but his shot doesn't look lousy.
Yeah,
his moves look crisp. His jumper looks fine.
Yeah.
I know that's just anecdotal, but I didn't view it as, wow, this guy's got a lot of work to do. It just looked like he wasn't making shots.
Yeah, and he's kind of, to your point, a guard that big is hard to defend in the pick and roll, and he's so gifted at like running that play. But I'm not saying the Pistons, like, other than Cade, have like a bona fide blue chip guy. I just like the chances they took. Jaden Ivey, he might be another like bucket getter. We'll see. He's so fast, but we'll see. Jalen Duren, Killian Hayes, like Kevin Knox. Like, I love all these lottery tickets. Why not? Right? They cost Knox cost nothing. They paid for Duren, but like, these are all good chances a rebuilding team should take.
Yeah, without even going too deep into all the talent that Houston and OKC has, what I like about those teams is that if you add someone like Wemby, it becomes that sort of intoxicating stew of just bizarre young talent that's everywhere. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So they have this guy and that guy and this guy. Like, we're looking at a dynasty being formed. Not, okay, they've got some cool pieces. They'll be good. It's, holy shit, imagine when these guys get good. It takes you back to the OKC Thunder. Reminds me of the Sixers when they had all those lottery picks stacked up. And that the enticement and enchantingness of the unknown. And this is a title-winning team in 5 years. Just let's watch it grow.
Yeah, I love that feeling, and I think of like the Pelicans a little bit. It's like, oh, Zion's coming back, like, yo, and I'm like, but remember they have Brandon Ingram, like, oh, he's kind of good. It's like, oh, Dyson Daniels they have too, like, wait, they have him, like Herb Jones ended up good, like, wait a second, that team is a little bit interesting, if not like stacked in a few years, because all these players like do not suck, and it's like CJ McCollum's there to hold it down. They can trade him for stuff. Like, okay, what's going on in New Orleans?
So here's my question for you. I want to change it up a little bit. When we talk about the West, we've got the usual suspects. Teams like Phoenix. We all scoff at them, but they were great last year. They won almost 70 games, and then it fell apart. But we know they're going to be good. We know Denver's got talent coming back. We know Memphis is young and improving. Golden State Warriors won the title. Clippers have guys coming back from injury. There are a lot of really good, interesting teams with a lot of big question marks. But are the Pelicans or the Timberwolves the bigger sleeper to win that conference?
Right.
I feel like they're both capable of it.
Yeah. This all depends on injury, but let's just talk about it in a vacuum for sure. Like, are we discounting the Pelicans and Timberwolves. I mean, the Timberwolves made a big splash with Gobert, so like I think that's a slightly different conversation. The Pelicans, like all these players have so much potential. Like, are we looking at this year or next year or the year after? I think it's plausible to think like they might put together some wins this year.
I mean, you look at the Pelicans with, Alvarado and your mans. No, but Alvarado and Herbert Jones.
Devontae Graham, he's a scorer. Jackson Hayes, your boy.
But they have some
Defenders.
legit annoying defensive guys in the backcourt. They have Brandon Ingram. They've got McCollum. Zion comes back. Like, that's just a lot of offensive talent on one team. I feel like perimeter defense is really
Trey Murphy's
underrated.
Good. Yeah.
People always think about rim protection. I think at this point perimeter defense is a huge deal, and they've got two guys who are both really good at it and both young. I mean, Herbert Jones is great.
He's good. He's good.
Legitimately great wing defender. There aren't that many guys who qualify for that, and he is one of like 5.
There's more scorers.
And Alvarado was also a good one.
Yeah. Also, I love that Larry Nance signing this week, keeping him in the building. He's a versatile player, man. He's like Blake Light, but he can pass. He's just like a smart guy on the court. Your boy Valanciunas just like doing his 90s ass thing, but like this team is interesting. I really like I really like what they did.
I think that's a really good team. I think if they fell apart, I wouldn't be shocked either.
Sure.
We don't know what Zion looks like in that mix, but Zion, he has appeared to have shed a lot of poundage. He was moving really good in the preseason games I've seen.
Would you run him at point again?
Yeah, sure.
I would too. I mean, Dyson Daniels I've seen listed as a small forward, which is crazy. I think of him as a point guard. But yeah, if you play Dyson off the ball and just like run stuff through Zion just to give a different look, that's like kind of like a really fun game to watch.
They seem cool to me. But, I think the Timberwolves, just to briefly get into them.
Let's do it.
The Gobert signing, I think they're going to win like 60 games.
He's good, man. He's really good.
They might lose in the first round.
Yeah. Did you see him play this summer?
I don't know how it'll...
Yeah.
I did not see a lot of the Euroball. I was just over there eating tinned fish.
Gobert was gassed, man. Towards the end of games, he was just like so gassed, and I'm like, ooh. This happens in baseball a lot. Remember, Yankees drop on cookiesoups.com. It's baseball season. But this happens in baseball where a big name changes teams, and they kind of like, it's hard to explain, but they kind of lose their mojo. And like, obviously this is just vibes talking, but like, there's a chance that Gobert, someone his size, someone who does as much work as he does, like the fatigue issues kind of start building. Because in Utah last year, also gassed.
It's a reasonable theory.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
But I look at that team and I feel as if they could get played off the court by a small ball team, Clippers, Mavs, going centerless, going spread court, and making Gobert and Cat defend in space. That could totally be an Achilles heel for this team. That is absolutely possible. Mm-hmm. But on a night-to-night basis, they're just going to win so many games, I think. You're like, you got Gobert, kind of making up for all sloppiness on the perimeter. You just funnel guys to him. It's a really easy way to have a quality offense on a nightly basis. It doesn't, when teams aren't scheming for you all week, when they aren't desperately trying to pull you out of the paint because they're just doing their 1-2 thing. Like, all right, playing these guys back to back. All right, sure, you're going to maybe play a stretch 5 and get them out of the paint. You're going to do some pick and rolls, but it's not that like deeply personal way of scouting that teams use against them in the postseason. Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of what's happened to Utah in the past. But just with that team, with Karl Anthony Towns' abilities, with Ant, D'Lo, they've got
Slow-mo.
Slow-mo's a great pickup. They've got They've got some perimeter defenders in the mix.
I would argue they're too thin.
Oh, go ahead.
I would argue they're too thin. The starting five, I'm assuming, is going to be Gobert, Edwards, Cat, D'Lo, Slow-Mo. And then there's a significant
I don't think
drop-off. Oh, okay, whatever. Who do you have in there? Taurean Prince, Josh Minott, is too young.
I think you're going to get
Jaden McDaniels.
Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, I can see him off the bench, or Kyle Anderson off the bench. But yeah, Jaden McDaniels, they've been trying to play him up as a pivotal piece of this team. I think is a bit of projection, but I like him quite a bit. Last year they were so deep, but it takes a lot of resources to get someone like Gobert, and it's kind of left them a little bit thin. I like
Josh Minott.
I mean, he's not ready. He was a project in the draft. Wendell Moore is a Duke boy. Your favorite? Nas Reed does work.
I guess it's actually Minott.
Minott.
I'm just so used to these French pronunciations.
Oui. As a Frenchman yourself, temporary Frenchman. I think they're a bit thin, only because the West is a pretty. The whole NBA is stacked, I think. But they're one injury away from just falling out of contention.
That's not a bad take at all. I do think, though, that when you look at the way that they have a guy like D'Lo, who can be sort of a facilitator, and then if he is one of the main offensive cogs, he can be a scorer too.
Yeah.
Or you can have a different look where you can either have Cat or Gobert at center at all times. I think just that combination of having, two guys who can both play center and give you two different looks, although they can still play together, and then you have two guards with Ant, who can be your primary scorer, and D'Lo, who can be a scorer facilitator, who can also operate together but also separate. I think you do have enough rotational versatility to make up for being sort of thin. And I think that's one of the things that, not to talk about the Sixers, but I look at that and I'm like, this is how you guys have to figure out how to separate these dudes. How do you separate Harden? How do you put Maxey into places? But can you get them all together into one group that's great, but also use that talent to spread out across your roster? Like Doc Rivers doesn't like doing that. He likes keeping his starters together. Sure. I think Minnesota will be smarter than that, because Doc is obviously the worst coach in the NBA by a large margin.
Okay.
I mean,
all right. I'm not.
But anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, I'm off topic. But I think that Minnesota will be at least capable of splitting those guys up to alleviate any of those depth issues.
Maybe so. And it's interesting that I've heard a lot of Karl Anthony Towns doubters recently. People are saying he was such an offensive force throughout his whole career, but we may be understanding his limitations more so now. And I would consider this like splitting hairs a bit, but he's no longer a top 10 player in my eyes, because he has weaknesses defensively, and we kind of understand his game offensively. So he's like a more known commodity now. I think we overrate someone like Anthony Edwards. He's going to be awesome too, top 25 player, but the ceiling is still kind of unknown for him. So the timelines are they're a few years spread more than I would be comfortable with the Timberwolves, and the players they let go in that trade were pretty important players. So I'm interested in watching them play, but I also worry about. You got to go for it. I'm happy that they went for it. That's all.
Thinking about what you just mentioned about Cat, he kind of falls into a category with Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid that is kind of unique, where they are pretty much the only three high-usage, high-scoring guys in the NBA who also don't really pass. And they're all big guys. There's no guard that has a similar prototype. It's just those three dudes. And maybe someone like Jeremy Grant, who's more of a perimeter guy, but he would never be your first option on a team that was trying to contend or win a title. And I think about this sometimes because the difference between Jokic and those guys is that Jokic is a scorer and a facilitator. And that's what makes him so unique as a big guy. It's not just that the league has shifted away from post scoring. I don't really believe that necessarily. Guys still operate out of the post. You know, LeBron and Kawhi, they'll go into the post all day. Mm-hmm. You see that stuff. It's not about the mid-range going away. KD, Tatum, you know, there are guys who's CP3, still superstars, still take a lot of mid-range jumpers. That's just a fact. Mm-hmm. But there's something about big guys who don't get criticized for their lack of passing because they're big. Mm-hmm. And it's this vestigial idea that big guys should just get the ball and dominate, that they aren't supposed to have the kind of passing acumen that traditional guards do. And I think that's wrong, because you look at how big these guys like Luka are, or LeBron, and they are 6'6", 6'8", 6'9". They're big guys. They're the size of Karl Malone's. You know, Karl Anthony Towns and Embiid and Anthony Davis, they have to be better passers. And I think that's the limitation when you're talking about that prototype of player. Mm-hmm. Like, wow, you can do all this stuff as far as scoring goes. Mm-hmm. But you know who else can do that? Trae Young. Right. But he also passes. You know who else can do all that stuff? Luka, Jokic, LeBron, Harden. But they also pass. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we think because they're big that it's not important for them to be passers. And I just think the modern game has changed where there isn't a lot of room for a primary scorer who can't move the ball because defenses are so good. Mm-hmm. And it's not about being only a perimeter player. It's not about only being small or having a handle. It's just about willingness and seeing the floor and escaping sort of that traditional big man ideology.
I love that. And maybe to your point, to the joy of basketball's point, if this team was indeed like a contender to go to the Western Conference Finals, can we name one basketball genius on this team? Is there somebody who does the work of those players you mentioned, Jokic, LeBron? I mean, competitors like 4 championships, Harden. Is D'Angelo Russell their smartest, most versatile passer? Because Edwards, Gobert, and Towns don't really do that.
That's a great point, and I think that is a huge limitation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you figure it out when life gets hard? Mm-hmm. It's all good when you can just operate with impunity. You know, you can live off the fat of the land.
Like you were doing in Barcelona.
You know, the shrubbery boughs with fruit.
So many tins, so many fish.
The salmon are leaping through the streams, and you can just open your mouth and they come flying in.
That's right.
But then when everything withers and dies, like, do you have someone who can figure out how to make a fucking fire?
Yeah.
Who's going to do it for you, Timberwolves? Who's going to make a fire in the middle of a blizzard and figure this thing out so that you can cook a little food, have a little shelter, and you don't freeze to death? Who's going to do it?
I would argue, respects to Edwards and Towns, that these are all tertiary players on a championship team. Like,
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah. And best example, this would be Anthony Davis, who could not do it himself. He couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. He could have great games. He couldn't do it. He couldn't go anywhere with the Pelicans by himself. He goes to LeBron, becomes a proper Batman. He goes with a proper Batman and becomes the Robin that he was intended to be, and they go win the most impressive chip in NBA history.
Yeah, that's right.
In the bubble.
The most difficult. Everyone's just so focused, according to the guy who went off in the bubble.
The purest basketball we've ever seen, the bubble.
Well, I mean, you finally redeemed this pod in the same way a basketball team redeems like a performance.
Go on. Where are you going with this?
Did you watch a Redeemed Team documentary on Netflix?
You know what, Andrew? I tried. Downloaded it to my phone.
Did you?
I was gonna watch it.
Moroccan Airs, let's go.
I made bad decisions on my save to phone Netflix options.
Yeah.
I got Dahmer. Didn't like that. And I was like, all right. Let me cleanse my palate, so to speak. With a little redemption from the 2008 USA basketball squad. My lord, that doc sucked.
I tried, man. I got like 6 or 7 minutes into it, and I was just like, fuck this. This is some propaganda stuff. This is some Kobe worship. This is some Colangelo BS.
You know what's really bothersome to me? A little nettlesome, if you will. Similar to The Last Dance. These, like, hagiographies that just regurgitate the conventional wisdom of basketball at that time. 15 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever it is so lame. Like, even with the gift of time, you can't come up with a different angle or story. You're just saying, here's exactly what everyone said at the time. Like, so yeah, they lost because everyone was a bunch of individuals. Then Colangelo showed up with Coach K and they built a culture. Yeah, that's so fucking interesting. You mean exactly what everyone said at the time, the full conventional wisdom of the Redeem team, and here's a doc about how it was true? Get out of here. Boring. Don't need to hear about MJ because he wanted it more than anyone else. We've heard that for years. Give me something about how he wanted it less.
And I think where basketball fandom has caught up with all those ideas and people who make these things is we all feel the same way. And there's a flaw in this documentary which doesn't make it work, because there's a flaw in the idea of a redemption arc with this team at the time. Because when the USA won bronze, we knew the world was catching up. They just kind of like blew it, but those players blew it. The US blew it. So, like, are we saying we were wronged? The USA team was wronged. Did they commit some sort of error, or were they beaten in a game? Like, to say they needed redemption is to assume we were better than everybody. And we found out Argentina was just a better team. Argentina had the best player in the Olympics in 2004. It was Manu Ginobili, in my opinion. The international game is different. The USA had amazing talent, but they also had Boozer, they had Okafor, they had Amari Stoudemire, Tim Duncan, Carmelo, LeBron were going at half speed. But the style... Go ahead.
They just had Larry Brown. He fucking sucks.
That too.
Sorry, they had Larry Brown.
Yeah.
He didn't want to play Carmelo. He didn't want to play the young guys. He stinks.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about the culture all they wanted. They had a bad coach. He was bad in Philly. He's been bad since. He sucks.
Yeah.
He is a clueless coach who does not believe in modern basketball, and that's why he got drummed out of the NBA. He wouldn't play LeBron and the young guys enough. He stinks.
Yep.
You know, like, our redemption was, yes, we got rid of Larry Brown, and then we were redeemed because he did a better job.
And also, like, styles make fights, right? And I think the USA was in the wrong match at that point to their error. It's not a redemption arc. It's just like, know your game, know your opponent. And then they came back with a more informed worldview and did fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I started watching that, and as soon as they started getting into the culture and the change and being a real team, and I was, get out of here. Not on my watch.
I think that time is up. I don't see many people talking about that documentary with the people I enjoy listening to. I do think that the paradigm has shifted on that. Like, there was someone tried to make that Carmelo Anthony clip go viral. It's like Kobe was, like, learning from the best, like Kobe. But when he said, you got to wake up at 4:30, I'm like, that's too damn early. I'm like, I'm with Carmelo. There's nothing like, get the work in, be smart, but, like, you don't have to wake up at 4:30. You don't have to drink a pint glass of raw eggs. Like, this is all arbitrary stuff. Like, what works for you? I wish the Kobe arc was more like, pay attention to what works for him and then find out what works for you. If you want to go to the club and that works and gets results, do it. Kobe was one of the more inefficient shooters of his generation.
Well, without even getting into all that, which I agree with you, is that LeBron James played 11 minutes a game.
Right.
For that team. Carmelo Anthony played in 7 of the 8 games and averaged under 7 minutes a game. Amari Stoudemire averaged under 7 minutes a game. So, I don't really care about that loss.
Yeah.
And, I don't care about the culture of the team.
Yeah.
I just think that they were poorly coached and they got outplayed by guys who were familiar playing with each other. And my thing now is like that idea that the familiarity and the culture, but that's not how the USA basketball team is now.
No.
But that's not even what we do.
Yeah.
This idea that we became, like the way that they played together since they were teenagers in Argentina and put this team together, that could be accurate. Those guys did play with each other for years and years and years and years. That's also because it's a bigger deal there, and they only had a couple NBA players on that team. Like, yeah, that's true. But also, we aren't winning now because we duplicated what Argentina does.
Right. Yeah, we just have the right pieces in there. And, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Did you watch the Tim Donaghy documentary, the Netflix one about...
That one I missed.
You didn't miss much, man. And we know it's not the whole story. And this whole idea of, like, sticking by these ideas is... It makes for... Like, I'm dreading this Jeremy Lin documentary on HBO coming out. I don't think... I think we're, as a Jeremy Lin community who loves him, as someone who's mistaken for Jeremy Lin for entire days at a time, I don't think we need to retell that story again because there's no convincing not believers that he was something special to some of us. But these ideas to me are old ideas, and I don't think the Redeem Team documentary is, to your point, any different than Michael Jordan's. But it's hard to, as we go into a new season, to appreciate these new stories when you still have people who want to be that crab that like drags you back into the basket, and like you want to talk about new ideas, you want to talk about the Nets, but all of a sudden the person you're trying to interact with at a bar or in real life is just like, but is Simmons wanted enough? I'm like, oh, we're not at the Yeah Yeah Yeahs reunion concert. I'm not trying to go there right now, and everything just drags us back to like, well, like certain people, Kobe Bryant, willed this team with pure effort and grit to victory. And I'm like, prove it. I'm not convinced.
I mean, that's true. But when everyone confronts me about those kind of things, I'm like, you know what? I'm just over here. I'm playing Def Jux 3, the video game.
Wow.
I've got the Despot unlockable character.
Woo!
We're listening to some RJD2 and like
R2DJ.
RJD2.
Yeah.
And like honestly, like bring Murs on when we can do this.
Wow. Yeah, name your top 50 Redeem teams. Bars. Gold bars. Bronze bars.
Man,
It was a close call.
we got there. We didn't follow it up like Larry Brown 2004 Olympics. We were perfect. Really redeemed ourselves.
Cookies.